Hello and welcome back to Retfurb. So on today's video I've got this dual 505 turntable which I've literally picked up recently with a few other parts. Now it was untested, so I'm not exactly sure what's working on it, what's not working on it, but what we'll do is we'll get straight into it, we'll have a look, we'll demonstrate it first, see if it's working okay, and then do any necessary and then just give it a quick service. Hopefully that's all it'll need. If it needs any more, then we'll look at that and see what it needs doing. But yeah, let's get straight into it. So getting straight into it, I'm just now demonstrating the movement of the turntable and just making sure that it's operating okay. Now stupidly, before I did this, I messed around with it for about 5 minutes without recording it, and the turntable every once in a while was going backwards, which is fairly common with these dual 505s. They've got some capacitors inside which when go faulty, they can cause this reverse action. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get inside, I'm going to replace those capacitors, check them first. Normally if they're cracked, that normally shows that they need replacing. So yeah, we'll get inside, we'll replace them, and hopefully that'll rectify it. It's just a shame that on the video, when I was trying to demonstrate it, it was working fine. But every time before I did it, it wasn't. So yeah, let's get straight into it and open it up and let's see what's going on the side. So to separate the two sections of the turntable, so the main centre part and the lower base, you just need to undo these two screws. Now they don't come all the way out, they just undo and they go loose, and then they just need to be angled so they can be lifted out from the bottom base of the turntable. Now I'm just removing the main sort of platter of the turntable and getting that out of the way. I do put that back on, you don't really need to get that off. I just thought I'd take that out of the way whilst I was doing this, just to make sure it doesn't sort of fall off as I'm doing it, and then we can get access to the inside. So I'm just putting a bit of bubble wrap down just to make sure there's no damage to the arm or anything when I've got it opened up like this. So the three capacitors, they're located behind this red plastic cover. Now I'll put an arrow there in a minute just to point out exactly where I mean, but you can see what the part that I'm sort of working on at the moment. And then underneath there's three capacitors, and these are the ones that normally go faulty. So I've got replacement capacitors. I did have a look at them, which I'll show you in a minute. They're quite cracked, the old ones, so they definitely need doing. So these capacitors are all direct replacements for the ones that are on there. They look slightly different in size, but they're all exactly the same ratings, and they're all safety capacitors. So yeah, you can see there, I'm just pointing out all the cracking on the outer shell. This normally means that these are faulty on this particular turntable. So I'm just going to go in, just replace them. They're obviously not working correctly for the fact that the turntable was every once in a while going backwards. Now, as I say, unfortunately, I didn't show it on the video. I stupidly did it before, and then when I tried to video it, it was okay. So obviously they're not really bad that they're doing it all the time, but it's enough that it was doing it when I first tried it. It might be that once they've sort of powered up a bit, and there was a bit of charge in the capacitors, that, you know, they worked okay, they worked better. But like I say, I'm just going to replace them, nice and easy to do anyway, and they're not overly expensive. I think all three of the capacitors cost me, I don't know, about £5. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they weren't a lot, from the usual supplier that I get all my capacitors from, which I'll link again in the description. He's an eBay seller, he's really good, always really helpful. I always go to him first, and 9 times out of 10 he's got the bits I need. And just replacing the new one, so pretty basic to solder these in. If you've got basic solder skills, it's no issues at all. You know, it's pretty easy. It's a big circuit board. It's not sort of anything tiny that's got to be worked on. Just need to make sure that you're replacing the capacitors with the correct one that comes out, and you're not putting the wrong one in the right in the wrong place. And just soldering this one in place. So this is the last one to solder in. This one had a slightly longer leg on it, which were more sort of flexible legs, so I just cut them down and then fitted them in so it wasn't too long once it goes back into the turntable. So that's that part all done, and now we can get it fitted back into the turntable. Now these little connectors, they just push on. A bit of an odd way of doing it, to be honest, and I was quite surprised when I saw it. They just push straight onto the pegs. Some of them were a little bit loose, so I did sort of press the sides of the little clips in slightly just to make them a bit tighter, and then they fitted a lot better. I didn't really want any loose connections after it was done, so I thought this was a better way of doing it. You can see there I'm just using the scissors just to squeeze those pins in a little bit tighter. And those scissors, not ideal really, but I had them next to me at the time, and they're sort of industrial type scissors anyway, so they're strong enough just to do that. And then we can just screw that bit back in place. And I'm just going to give it a quick hoover out and just go around, just make sure all the bits and pieces are lubricated, which I've done. I don't actually show it, but I've been around and lubricated all the little bits of underneath that need doing, just to give it a sort of basic service. Now the needle, stylus and everything was all okay on this. There was no issues with it. I did try it beforehand. Again, I didn't show it stupidly when I did the demo of the video like I said I was going to, but you'll hear in a minute when I do a test of the actual turntable that you'll see it's all okay. So I'm just going to give it a wipe off again as part of the service. Now with this I decided to do a little bit of a modification on the exterior. I cut some strips of wood effect film, which I know people moan about sometimes, and I've had people moan about some of the speakers that I've done and I put this on. I don't see the issue of it, to be honest. It can be easily removed if someone doesn't like it. I just thought I would just try it just to see whether it'd work okay. I cut them all to shape and size and everything, and they fitted fine, so they look really good, I thought. But again, it's not a real, people can peel it off if they don't like it, and yeah, so it's entirely up to the person who, you know, does it, to be honest. But I just thought I would try it just for something to do. So you can see here I'm just demoing the rotation again, which is absolutely fine, and now I'm going to put the lid on. Now with the lid, I do give it a bit of a clean in the video, but I did polish it up a lot better, so that haziness, all, you know, it was there a little bit still afterwards, but I polished it up with the machine that I've got, and it came up really nice. So it did, you know, by the end of it, the turntable looked really good. I was really happy with it. So now I'm just going to do a quick demo just to show it all working.
A woman is a creature.
So you can obviously see there that the turntable's working all okay. There's no issues with it. I wasn't getting any reverse action with the actual plate, so that was obviously resolved. It was obviously the capacitors. I did do it a lot afterwards to see whether it was going to do the same, and I left it a couple of days as well in between using it to make sure that it wouldn't all of a sudden start coming back. So it was obviously those capacitors, like it usually is on those dual 505s. So hopefully if anyone's got that issue with a dual 505 with it going backwards, that is more than likely what is causing it. So hopefully that'll help someone if they're looking and the procedure involved in doing it. But other than that, the turntable came up really well. It sounds really good. The record that I've got that I always demo with, obviously I can't show too much because I get copyright come up. It's a bit warped and it's a bit of a dodgy sound on that. I need to get another spare one, but that's the only one I've got at the moment, just as a tester. But I need to replace it, to be honest, which I will do. But yeah, that's it, all done. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.